Back then, meals weren't just about satisfying hunger. They were about bringing the family together, sharing stories, and indulging in dishes that were made with love. And as you very well know, Grandma was always sure to pull out one of the most delicious dishes in her arsenal whenever you sat at lunch with her. From steaming pies to indulgent delights, here are 25 hearty lunches Grandma used to cook in the 70s.
Today on Rachel Cooks with Love, I'm going to prepare shepherd's pie.
One shepherd's pie. One of Grandma's lunch stars, the roots of shepherd's pie trace back to British cuisine, where it originated as a way to repurpose leftovers. Traditionally made with minced lamb, the Americanized version often used ground beef for convenience and availability. The meat forms the savory base, seasoned with salt, pepper, garlic, and Worcestershire sauce, offering a depth of umami flavor. Onions, peas, carrots, and corn are added to enhance the texture and nutritional value, creating a colorful medley. The creamy mashed potato layer crowns the pie, and to achieve the perfect texture, the potatoes are whipped with butter, cream, and sometimes an egg yolk for stability. For added indulgence, sometimes Grandma would sprinkle shredded cheddar cheese over the top before baking, ensuring a golden, bubbly crust. What made shepherd's pie a lunch staple was how practical the dish was. Families could prepare it in advance, refrigerate it, and bake it later, making it ideal for busy households. The aroma of this dish baking in the oven often filled the house, creating anticipation and warmth. Its versatility allowed it to pair seamlessly with side salads, buttered rolls, or simply a warm glass of milk. Our next dish is another pie.
Today, I'm going to teach you how to make the ultimate chicken pot pie.
2 chicken pot pie. Few dishes are as synonymous with Grandma's cooking as chicken pot pie. The dish begins with a flaky pastry crust created from scratch or using store-bought dough for convenience. This crust, both a bottom layer and a top cover, encases the hearty filling, ensuring every bite delivers a balance of crunch and creaminess. The filling is a medley of shredded chicken, carrots, peas, celery, and potatoes enveloped in a velvety sauce. This sauce, often made from scratch, combines chicken broth and cream, thickened with a roux of flour and butter. Some variations incorporate herbs like thyme and parsley, adding a fragrant dimension to the savory dish. The filling is poured into the crust-lined pie dish, covered with another layer of dough, and sealed with crimped edges. Before baking, the crust is brushed with an egg wash, ensuring a golden, glossy finish. As it bakes, the crust becomes a crispy shell that locks in the filling's flavors and aromas. Chicken pot pie was particularly beloved for its ability to stretch ingredients while providing a complete meal. It was served steaming hot, often with a side of buttered green beans or a light salad. The dish's portability also made it a popular choice for potlucks and church lunches, where it was sure to please a crowd, just like the next dish on this list.
Tuna noodle casserole is one of my favorite dishes from my childhood.
3 tuna noodle casserole. Tuna noodle casserole developed in mid-century American households, such as Grandma's. At its core, the casserole marries tender egg noodles with a creamy, flavorful sauce, featuring canned tuna as the star protein. The preparation begins with a sauce made from condensed cream of mushroom soup, a 70s kitchen staple. The soup is combined with milk and seasoned with salt, pepper, and sometimes a splash of lemon juice for brightness. Flaked tuna is folded into the mix, along with cooked egg noodles and peas, creating a creamy, hearty base. This is then poured into a casserole dish and topped with breadcrumbs, crushed potato chips, or shredded cheddar cheese, depending on regional preferences. The casserole is baked until golden, offering a crisp contrast to the velvety interior. Its appeal was rooted in its versatility. Families could customize the ingredients based on what was available. Leftovers from the night before could be repurposed, stretching the dish even further. Tuna noodle casserole was also portable and easy to reheat, making it another favorite for lunchboxes or potluck gatherings. Its popularity surged due to its cost-effectiveness and comforting flavors. Moms loved it for the ease of preparation, and kids enjoyed the creamy texture and familiar ingredients. To follow up a seafood dish, we have a meat dish to cleanse the palate.
Not only are we showing you maybe one of the world's greatest meatloafs,
4 meatloaf sandwiches. The meatloaf sandwich was a genius way for Grandma to transform leftovers into a satisfying lunch, and so it became a classic. This dish starts with the meatloaf itself, a blend of ground beef, breadcrumbs, egg, and seasonings such as garlic powder, Worcestershire sauce, and ketchup. The meatloaf is baked into a tender, flavorful loaf that slices easily once cooled. To create the sandwich, slices of cold or slightly warm meatloaf are layered between 2 slices of bread. On Grandma's table, hearty white or whole grain bread was common, providing providing a sturdy base. A variety of condiments could be added, from mayonnaise and mustard to leftover gravy or a dollop of ketchup depending on individual tastes. Lettuce, pickles, or even a slice of tomato were optional toppings that added freshness and texture. The sandwich was an ideal lunch for busy families or school children, as it was portable, filling, and delicious even at room temperature. For extra indulgence, some households grilled the sandwich, melting cheese over the meatloaf slice and creating a crispy, gooey delight. Whether packed in a lunchbox or served with a side of potato chips and a pickle spear, these sandwiches offered a hearty, satisfying meal that transported diners back to the family kitchen. Our next dish also features a savory filling.
Today on the Stay at Home Chef, I'm showing you how to make delicious stuffed bell peppers.
5. Stuffed bell peppers. Stuffed bell peppers was another of Grandma's favorites. This dish involved hollowed-out bell peppers packed with a savory stuffing made from ground beef, rice, vegetables, and tomato sauce. The preparation began by selecting large, firm bell peppers in a variety of colors. Green was the classic choice, though red, yellow, and orange added sweetness and visual appeal. After slicing off the tops and removing seeds and membranes, the peppers were blanched briefly to soften them slightly and set aside. The stuffing was a versatile mixture, typically starting with sautéed ground beef and onions. Cooked rice added bulk and texture, while tomato sauce or diced tomatoes brought acidity and moisture. Seasonings such as garlic and oregano and parsley enhanced the flavor. Some families added shredded cheese or chopped vegetables like zucchini or mushrooms for extra richness and nutrients. The peppers were then filled generously with the mixture, placed in a baking dish, and topped with a spoonful of tomato sauce or a sprinkle of grated cheese. Baked until tender, the peppers emerged as a fragrant, wholesome meal. Stuffed bell peppers were a popular choice because they were visually appealing, nutritious, and endlessly adaptable. They were often paired with crusty bread or a side salad. Our next item is a steak dish.
Today I'm showing you how to make the best chicken fried steak with gravy.
6 chicken fried steak with mashed potatoes. For chicken fried steak with mashed potatoes, Grandma often began with cube steak, a cut of beef tenderized to ensure it was soft and succulent. The steak was dredged in a mixture of seasoned flour, dipped in beaten eggs, and coated again in flour to create its signature crispy crust. Each piece was then fried in hot oil until golden brown and crunchy. The white gravy was a star in its own right. Made from the pan drippings, it featured milk, flour, and plenty of black pepper. This creamy, savory sauce was drizzled generously over the steak and mashed-up potatoes, tying the dish together with its rich flavor. The mashed potatoes were a perfect counterpart to the crispy steak. Peeled, boiled, and whipped with butter, cream, and a touch of salt, they were luxuriously smooth and fluffy. The gravy added an extra layer of indulgence, creating a harmony of textures and flavors. The contrast of the crispy, golden steak with the velvety potatoes and creamy gravy created a dish that felt both indulgent and deeply satisfying. Grandma's care and attention to detail ensured this classic was always a hit at the family table, just like our next dish.
I will be sharing with you my recipe for a delicious and easy egg salad sandwich.
7 egg salad sandwiches. One of Grandma's most versatile dishes, they were a favorite for picnics, lunchboxes, and light meals at home. The preparation started with our hard-boiling eggs, which were then peeled and chopped finely or mashed, depending on the desired texture. The creamy dressing was the heart of the salad, often combining mayonnaise, mustard, and a splash of vinegar or lemon juice. This tangy blend elevated the flavor, balancing the rich eggs with a subtle acidity. To add layers of flavor and texture, chopped celery, green onions, or even pickles were mixed into the salad. Some recipes included herbs like dill or parsley for an aromatic boost. The seasoning was kept simple, with salt, pepper, and sometimes paprika or cayenne for a mild kick. The salad was traditionally spread between slices of soft white bread, though multigrain or rye became popular variations. To keep the sandwiches fresh, Grandma often buttered the bread lightly to keep it from getting soggy. For a touch of elegance, the sandwiches were sometimes served as crustless triangles or finger sandwiches at luncheons. Variations included serving the egg salad on crackers, in lettuce wraps, or as a filling for hollowed-out tomatoes. Leftovers were rare, but when they happened, the salad could be repurposed into toppings for baked potatoes or stirred into pasta. Our next dish is also perfect for luncheons.
Today on the Stay at Home Chef, I'm showing you how to make chicken a la king.
8 chicken a la king. Perfect for lunch gatherings or midweek family meals, chicken a la king provided a delicious way for Grandma to transform leftover chicken into a luxurious meal. The dish began with a velvety sauce made by creating a roux from butter and flour. Milk, cream, and chicken broth were gradually whisked in to form a rich base. The addition of sherry or white wine elevated the flavor. Mushrooms and bell peppers were sautéed until tender, infusing the dish with earthy and sweet undertones. Pimientos added vibrant color and a mild sweetness, a nod to the era's love for visually appealing dishes. Chunks of cooked chicken were folded into the sauce, allowing them to absorb the creamy flavors. Chicken a la king was often served over toast points, rice, or puff pastry shells. The puff pastry added a flaky, buttery texture that paired beautifully with the creamy filling. In home kitchens, simpler options like plain toast or biscuits were popular and no less satisfying. Garnishes such as fresh parsley or chives provided a final flourish. The dish could be customized with vegetables like peas or asparagus and was a way to stretch ingredients without sacrificing flavor. Chicken a la king was seen as both a practical and luxurious meal, fitting for both casual family lunches and more formal occasions. The next dish also started out as a way to repurpose leftover chicken.
Just thinking about it, homemade chicken croquettes.
9 chicken croquettes. The golden patties known as chicken croquettes were also a familiar face at Grandma's table. The filling began with finely chopped or shredded chicken mixed with a thick bechamel or cream sauce. This base was seasoned with onion, parsley, salt, and pepper, and often included a hint of nutmeg for warmth. The mixture was chilled to firm up, ensuring easy shaping. Once set, the croquettes were molded into patties, balls, or even oblong shapes. Each piece was coated in breadcrumbs, dipped in beaten egg, and rolled in breadcrumbs again to achieve a double crust coating. This ensured a crispy, golden exterior when fried. The frying process required careful attention as the croquettes needed to be browned evenly without overcooking. Croquettes were often served with a creamy gravy or sauce, which complemented the crunchy coating and tender filling. Accompaniments like mashed potatoes, peas, or coleslaw turned them into a hearty lunch, and their rich, savory flavor made them a family favorite. Our next dish features lots of veggies.
Follow that up with today's recipe for cabbage soup.
10 cabbage soup. Cabbage soup was a nourishing, budget-friendly dish that gained popularity for its simplicity and wholesome ingredients. A staple in many households, it highlighted Grandma's frugality and creativity. The soup began with a base of sautéed onions and garlic, which provided a fragrant, flavorful foundation. Cabbage, often shredded or chopped into hearty pieces, was the star ingredient, bringing a tender crunch and subtle sweetness. To enhance the flavor, carrots, celery, and potatoes were added, creating a robust vegetable medley. The broth was typically a light tomato or chicken base, seasoned with bay leaves, thyme, and black pepper. Some variations included a splash of vinegar or Worcestershire sauce for a tangy depth, while others relied on smoked meat or sausage to infuse a savory richness. The soup was simmered until the vegetables were tender, allowing the flavors to meld together. Served piping hot, it was often accompanied by crusty bread or cornbread, making it a satisfying and complete meal. Leftovers reheated beautifully, and the soup's flavor deepened over time. Our next dish may be a little more indulgent than most.
Southern pan-fried pork chops are so simple to prepare and beyond delicious.
11 fried pork chops with gravy. Fried pork chops with gravy were a nostalgic centerpiece in Grandma's lunches. This Southern-inspired classic began with thick, bone-in pork chops, seasoned generously with salt, pepper, and sometimes a touch of paprika or garlic powder. The chops were then dredged in seasoned flour, ensuring an even coating that would crisp up beautifully in a hot skillet. Some cooks preferred adding a dip in buttermilk or egg wash before dredging for an extra crunchy crust. The pork chops were fried to golden perfection in cast iron skillets, often using lard or a combination of oil and butter to enhance the flavor. The searing process not only locked in the juices but also created a savory fond on the skillet's bottom, which would serve as the base for the rich gravy. Once the chops were removed, flour was whisked into the drippings to form a roux. Gradually, milk or cream was added, creating a velvety gravy infused with the essence of the pork. Seasonings like pepper and sometimes a dash of the Worcestershire sauce rounded out the flavor. The gravy was poured generously over the chops, soaking into accompanying mashed potatoes or rice. Leftovers, if there were any, were used creatively, like reheating the pork chops with the gravy for a second hearty meal or slicing them for sandwiches like in our next dish.
It's a delicious ham and cheese sandwich and we put it in a butter.
12 ham and cheese sandwiches. A staple of Grandma's lunch ensemble, Ham and cheese sandwiches were a practical yet indulgent meal that showcased the desire for simple, satisfying flavors. These sandwiches often started with thick slices of deli or leftover baked ham, paired with a mild cheese like cheddar, Swiss, or American. The choice of bread varied from hearty white to rye or whole wheat, depending on the household's preference. The sandwich's preparation could be as straightforward or as elaborate as the cook desired. For a cold version, the ham and cheese were layered with crisp lettuce, tomato slices, and a swipe of mustard or mayonnaise. Some variations included pickles or a dollop of sweet relish to add tang and crunch. The grilled version was arguably the more beloved. Buttered on the outside, the sandwiches were toasted in a skillet until the bread turned golden brown and the cheese melted into gooey perfection. The warm, toasted version elevated the humble ham and cheese into a lunch that felt special and indulgent. These sandwiches were often served alongside potato chips, pickles, or a bowl of tomato soup. They were versatile enough for quick lunches or as a foundation for more creative variations like adding a fried egg or swapping in specialty breads. Our next dish also stars cheese.
My favorite casserole of all time is a squash casserole.
13 Squash Casserole. Squash casserole was a vegetable dish Grandma turned into a creamy, cheesy masterpiece. It combined yellow summer squash with a rich medley of cheese, cream, and buttery breadcrumbs, creating a dish that was both comforting and indulgent. The squash was typically sliced thin and par-cooked to ensure a tender texture without becoming mushy. Some home cooks added onions or even bell peppers for an extra layer of flavor. The casserole's creamy base often included sour cream, mayonnaise, or cream of mushroom soup, binding the vegetables together and adding richness. Cheddar cheese, the star ingredient, was generously sprinkled throughout, creating a melty golden crust on top. Crumbled crackers or breadcrumbs, sometimes mixed with melted butter, provided a crunchy contrast to the soft squash and creamy filling. Squash casserole was a versatile dish, appearing both as a main lunch item with bread and as a side dish for larger meals, just like the next dish on our list.
I am so excited to share my sloppy joe recipe.
14 Sloppy Joes. Another of Grandma's regulars, which originally stemmed from a traditional loose meat sandwich, this dish became more mainstream in American households during the 20th century, but its real cultural surge occurred in the 70s. The base of Sloppy Joes was simple: ground beef or turkey, onions, green peppers, and a variety of seasonings, all simmered together in a rich, tangy sauce. The sauce was typically made with a combination of ketchup, mustard, Worcestershire sauce, and a sweet element like brown sugar or molasses, giving it the perfect balance of savory and sweet. While the dish originally called for only a few pantry staples, it was easy to customize with additional flavors like hot sauce for heat or garlic powder for depth. The sauce was simmered until it thickened and coated the meat, creating a satisfying, juicy mixture that was served generously on soft hamburger buns. This dish was especially popular as a casual lunch, particularly in households with children. Often served with chips, coleslaw, or pickles, Sloppy Joes were a complete meal on their own. They were also frequently packed into lunchboxes for school, making it an enduring comfort food of the era. The dish's popularity has continued for decades, thanks in large part to its association with home-cooked family meals, not unlike our next dish.
Today I'm going to be sharing with you 3 secrets to making the perfect meatloaf.
15 Meatloaf with mashed potatoes. A dish that brought together the comforting flavors of Grandma's home, meatloaf was typically made from ground beef, although pork or veal were sometimes mixed in, breadcrumbs, eggs, milk, and seasonings. Cooks could add ingredients like onions, garlic, or bell peppers for extra flavor. Once the mixture was formed into a loaf, it was baked until golden and topped with a glaze made of ketchup, brown sugar, and mustard, sometimes even a splash of Worcestershire sauce or vinegar for a little extra zing. The star of this meal, however, was the creamy mashed potatoes. Simple yet satisfying, mashed potatoes were often made with butter, milk, and a pinch of salt. The potatoes were mashed to a smooth consistency, and in some households, the mashed potatoes were whipped for extra airiness, making them even more luxurious. The mashed potatoes were the perfect side to soak up the savory juices from the meatloaf and the tangy ketchup glaze. This meal was often a family favorite due to the fact that it was easy to make in large quantities, making it an ideal dish for feeding a crowd or preparing for leftovers. Meatloaf with mashed potatoes was also a great option for lunch leftovers, often used for sandwiches or reheated for a second helping. Our next dish is perhaps the most popular on this list.
And today, we're going to show you how we make our favorite baked mac and cheese.
16 Macaroni and cheese. Another of Grandma's beloved dishes, The classic version of macaroni and cheese involved macaroni noodles boiled to tender perfection and then combined with a velvety cheese sauce made from butter, flour, milk, and cheddar cheese. Some recipes included the addition of breadcrumbs on top, toasted to a golden brown in the oven, giving the dish a crunchy, satisfying texture. What made macaroni and cheese so beloved was the simplicity of its preparation. Even if you used a boxed version, which was highly popular in the era, the dish came together quickly and could feed a family on a budget. The creamy, cheesy sauce had enveloped the pasta, creating a rich and satisfying meal that both kids and adults loved. Adding extras, such as a dash of the mustard, Worcestershire sauce, or even a hint of garlic was common, enhancing the flavor and giving the dish some personalized flair. It was the ultimate comfort food, creamy, cheesy, and indulgent, making it the perfect lunch for school-age kids and working adults alike. Macaroni and cheese was often paired with other dishes like hot dogs, meatloaf, or a simple salad. It was hearty enough to serve as the main dish, yet adaptable enough to be a side dish to more substantial meals. As a result, macaroni and cheese remained a constant presence on lunch tables across the country, much like our next dish.
We are making Southern chicken and dumplings today.
17. Chicken and dumplings. Chicken and dumplings was another dish Grandma stowed away in her arsenal. This dish was often made in a single pot, starting with a flavorful chicken broth seasoned with aromatics such as onions, carrots, and celery. The chicken was either cooked whole or chopped into pieces, then simmered in the broth until it was tender and easy to shred. The dumplings, which were the star of this dish, were typically made from a simple dough consisting of flour, baking powder, milk, and butter. Sometimes a pinch of salt or herbs would be added for extra flavor. These dumplings were dropped into the simmering broth, where they would puff up and cook to perfection, creating light, fluffy pillows that soaked up the savory broth. The beauty of chicken and dumplings was in its simplicity, just a few humble ingredients combining to create something rich and deeply satisfying. In some variations, home cooks would add peas or green beans to the broth for extra color and flavor. The final dish was a comforting, hearty bowl of tender chicken, vegetables, and fluffy dumplings, all swimming in a thickened, flavorful broth. Our next dish makes use of noodles.
And today we are making classic beef stroganoff.
18. Beef stroganoff. Beef stroganoff was the king of Grandma's lunch table, offering a luxurious combination of tender beef, creamy sauce, and egg noodles. Traditionally made with thinly sliced beef like sirloin or tenderloin, the meat was browned to perfection before being simmered in a savory sauce made from sour cream, beef broth, onions, and mushrooms. Some recipes included a touch of Dijon mustard or Worcestershire sauce for added depth and tang. The sauce's velvety richness coated the wide egg noodles, creating a hearty and satisfying meal. For many families, stroganoff was a way to stretch smaller portions of beef into a filling dish, which made it economical as well as delicious. The inclusion of the mushrooms provided an earthy note that complemented the tangy cream sauce, while fresh parsley was often sprinkled on top for a burst of freshness. This dish was typically served in a large casserole dish or skillet straight from the stove, making it ideal for family-style lunches. Its creamy texture and bold flavors cemented beef stroganoff as a staple in Grandma's repertoire. Even today, it remains a popular comfort food, beloved for its nostalgia and satisfying taste. Our next dish also features beef.
If you have a potato and corned beef, you can do this delicious corned beef hash.
19. Corned beef hash. Corned beef hash, with its crispy golden crust and hearty interior, was often a go-to lunch option at Grandma's, particularly when leftovers needed repurposing. The dish typically combined diced corned beef, potatoes, and onions, all pan-fried together until crispy. The potatoes provided a soft, starchy base, while the corned beef added salty, savory notes. Some versions incorporated green peppers or a fried egg on top for added flair and protein. This dish was born from frugality and ingenuity, using leftover corned beef from Sunday dinners or St. It was cooked in a single skillet, making cleanup easy for busy households. A sprinkle of parsley or a dash of hot sauce often finished the dish, adding a pop of color and flavor. Corned beef hash was a satisfying and flavorful way to fill up hungry stomachs. It was served on its own, alongside bread or toast, or even paired with pickles for a tangy contrast. Its crisp exterior and savory interior made it a beloved addition to Grandma's lunch menu. Our next item is a sandwich.
Today, I'm going to teach you how to make an epic BLT sandwich.
20. BLT sandwich. This was another dish that so often graced Grandma's table. The bread, often white, whole wheat, or sourdough, was buttered and lightly toasted to a golden crisp, providing a sturdy base that could hold the juicy and flavorful contents without getting soggy. The bacon was cooked to perfection, balancing crispiness with a slight chewiness, delivering smoky, salty goodness in every bite. Bacon grease was a cherished commodity, and Grandma would often save it for other dishes. The lettuce was typically iceberg or romaine, chosen for its crunchy texture and refreshing bite. Grandma prided herself on growing or sourcing the freshest lettuce possible, ensuring a crisp layer of green in every sandwich. Similarly, the tomatoes were ripe, garden fresh, and full of natural sweetness. Thick, juicy slices were carefully arranged to deliver a flavor that perfectly balanced the saltiness of the bacon. What held it all together was a generous smear of mayonnaise, which added creaminess and tied the flavors into a harmonious bite. Some families put their own twist on the classic by adding avocado slices, a sprinkle of black pepper, or even a touch of mustard for extra tang. BLTs were quick to prepare and ideal for busy households. Served with chips or a pickle on the side, this sandwich filled the stomach, just like the next dish on our list.
I'll be showing you my take on spaghetti and meatballs.
21 Spaghetti and Meatballs. Spaghetti and meatballs was a labor of love that brought families together around the lunch table. Grandma's version often featured homemade meatballs crafted from a mixture of ground beef, breadcrumbs, garlic, parsley, and a Parmesan cheese. The meatballs were browned to perfection before being simmered in a robust tomato sauce made with crushed tomatoes, onions, garlic, and Italian herbs. The spaghetti was cooked al dente and tossed in the flavorful sauce before being topped with the meatballs. A generous sprinkle of grated Parmesan cheese and fresh basil completed the dish, adding richness and aroma. The rich, savory flavors and tender meatballs made it a comforting staple. Served with garlic bread and a simple green salad, spaghetti and meatballs was a centerpiece of Grandma's lunches. Our next dish features a salad ingredient in it.
Today in this episode, we're making up another easy and delicious recipe, cabbage rolls.
22 cabbage rolls. Showcasing Grandma's skill in creating a filling and nutritious meal with simple ingredients. The dish involved large cabbage leaves stuffed with a savory mixture of ground beef, rice, onions, and seasonings. The rolls were placed in a casserole dish and smothered with tomato sauce before being baked to perfection. The tomato sauce, often seasoned with garlic and herbs, infused the rolls with a tangy sweetness that balanced the savory filling. The cabbage leaves became tender as they cooked, encasing the meat and rice in a melt-in-your-mouth wrapper. Some recipes added a pinch of the cinnamon or allspice for an unexpected depth of flavor. Cabbage rolls were hearty and satisfying, offering a complete meal in one dish. They were often paired with crusty bread or a dollop of sour cream, making them a quintessential comfort food, just like the next item on our list.
Do you want a meal that pleases everyone, is easy to make, and comes together in one pot? Goulash.
23 Goulash. Goulash was another regular at Grandma's lunch table. This Americanized version of the Hungarian classic combined ground beef, macaroni noodles, and a tomato-based sauce seasoned with garlic, paprika, and Italian herbs. Some variations included green peppers or corn for added texture and sweetness. The dish was cooked in a single pot, making it easy to prepare and clean up. Macaroni absorbed the flavorful sauce, while the beef provided protein and richness. A sprinkle of shredded cheese on top melted into the warm goulash, adding creaminess to the dish. Goulash was a budget-friendly meal that fed large families with ease. Its savory, comforting flavors made it a go-to lunch option, often served with a side of bread for scooping up the sauce. The next dish is quite spicy.
I'm making a cornbread chili casserole bake.
24 chili with cornbread. Grandma's chili was often a labor of love, simmered for hours on the stove to achieve a depth of flavor that only time and care could provide. The base was typically ground beef or chunks of stewed beef combined with beans, either kidney, black, or pinto, alongside tomatoes, onions, and a rich blend of spices like chili powder, cumin, and paprika. Some versions included diced bell peppers or jalapenos for extra flavor and heat. The cornbread was equally essential. Made from scratch, it featured simple ingredients like cornmeal, flour, sugar, eggs, and buttermilk. The batter was poured into a hot buttered cast iron skillet, ensuring a golden, crispy crust with a tender interior. Some variations included bits of corn or a drizzle of honey for added sweetness. The chili was served piping hot in a bowl, often garnished with shredded cheese, a dollop of sour cream, or chopped green onions. The cornbread was either crumbled into the chili or served on the side, ready to soak up the rich flavors. This pairing offered the perfect balance of savory, spicy, and sweet, making it a nostalgic staple of Grandma's lunch menu. Whether eaten on a chilly day or as a satisfying midday meal, chili with cornbread remains a timeless comfort food. Our final dish also fuses a sauce and a dip.
Today on Sugar's Fun Run, I'll be showing you how to make the ultimate creamy potato soup.
25 potato soup with crackers. Potato soup with the crackers was the height of comfort. The soup began with humble ingredients. Peeled and diced potatoes simmered in water or chicken broth until tender. The base was often enriched with milk or cream, creating a velvety texture. Butter added a layer of richness, while onions and garlic provided a savory undertone. Grandma sometimes included bits of ham or bacon for a smoky, salty contrast. The soup was thickened with mashed or pureed potatoes, leaving some chunks for texture. Seasonings were straightforward but effective: salt, pepper, and a pinch of nutmeg or parsley for added depth. It was ladled into bowls and served steaming hot, often topped with shredded cheddar cheese, crispy bacon crumbles, or a sprinkle of chives. Saltine crackers were an essential accompaniment. They could be crumbled into the soup to add crunch or used to scoop up the creamy broth. This dish was especially beloved during colder months, providing warmth and nourishment without requiring expensive ingredients. Potato soup was a testament to Grandma's ability to turn the simplest pantry staples into a meal that felt indulgent and satisfying. And there goes our list of 25 hearty lunches that Grandma used to cook in the 70s. These dishes were more than just sustenance. They were family traditions, lovingly passed down through generations. So why not bring a little of that nostalgia back to your own table? Try recreating one of these lunches, share the experience with your loved ones, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more culinary nostalgia.